Welcome to my channel, the Purple Antidote channel. This is the Come to Jesus moment. Joe Biden, President Joe Biden and Benjamin Nethanyahu. So, will Jesus save children? Okay, let it rip.
But we begin here with our big story. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Nethanyahu speaking today for the first time in over a month. And that's according to a source familiar with this planned call. Netanyahu saying in a televised statement that he and President Biden discussed, quote, the latest developments in the war, including Israel's commitment to achieving all goals of the war. And this follows the president's hot mic moment. After his State of the Union address earlier this month, he was heard saying that he and Netanyahu needed to have a, quote, come to Jesus meeting over the dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Now, this all coming as a United Nations-backed report warns that famine is imminent in northern Gaza and can happen anytime between now and May. The findings show that 70% of the population in that part of the territory, over 200,000 people, are experiencing, quote, catastrophic hunger. And the data also looking at the entire population of.
This is pulled from ABC News. Let it rip. And the tabs on here are totally atrocious. Okay, look at it. Totally famine, starvation. Just watch.
The Gaza Strip, over 2 million people, showing a grim projection of the Palestinian civilians facing acute food insecurity. By July, more than 1 million people could be facing a catastrophe. Now, in the meantime, Israeli forces today launching what it calls a high-precision military raid on Gaza's main hospital. The IDF accusing Hamas militants of using Al-Shifa Hospital as a base, directing attacks from the compound. The Hamas-run Ministry of Health rejecting those claims and saying that at least 20 Gazans were killed in that military operation, calling the raid a violation of international humanitarian law. Now, in the backdrop of all of this, Israel preparing to launch a ground offensive in Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah, despite international calls to abandon that plan. It's where over 1 million Palestinian civilians have sought safety as the war rages on. So joining me for more on this is the Global Humanitarian Director for CARE, Dimala Mahela. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it. And let's jump right in here. We're starting to hear that one of the biggest issues right now isn't necessarily supplies, but instead it's distribution, that people that are on the ground trying to distribute aid don't feel safe getting to some of these territories. So what are you hearing from people there?
What we are hearing is absolutely catastrophic. So first of all, it's not that people are not feeling safe. People are actually not safe. Nowhere in Gaza it is safe. It is not safe. And as you said, first of all, there isn't enough aid into Gaza. Well, there is a lot of aid in trucks waiting just a few miles away from the people who are in desperate need. And if and when the very inadequate amount of aid that reaches, it is very hard to make sure that it reaches the vulnerable people because there are continuous attacks and bombardments happening. The roads are destroyed, there are piles of rubble, and aid workers, like the rest of the people in Gaza, are themselves very affected as well. So we are hearing of a situation which is completely unprecedented. Being humanitarians, delivering humanitarian assistance in war zones within an armed conflict is not new for us. We have done it in several other contexts, but the severity, the speed at which it happened, the depth, the breadth of it is absolutely unparalleled. No humanitarian has ever seen a catastrophe of this level.
To all my TVAC Nation people, Benjamin Netanyahu is the devil. Listen to this professor speak. She's not lying. Let her rip.
And what makes it saddest, it is human made. It could have been preventable. It is still preventable.
On that note here, we saw today that the U.S. had to cancel an airdrop because of what they say was an Israeli operation inside Gaza. Israeli authorities are claiming that they place no limits on the entry of aid. They're accusing UN bodies of failing to distribute it, though, in a timely manner. Do you think that that is at least part of what's happening here?
It's hugely ironic that these conversations are happening when people are literally starving to death. 23 children, and the youngest one of them starved to death. Let's imagine for a second what is it for a mom to see her child perish right in front of her. There are babies, little babies, most of them underweight, in incubators, and the electricity is available only for a few hours. People are having to eat grass, make bread out of animal feed. While all this is happening, these conversations around airdrops and BRs, maritime corridors, these are happening. Well, aid by any medium is welcome. However, the most efficient, fast, systematic way is through land routes. Why don't we open all those borders and let the trucks in? If we really want to save lives, we have to have a sustained ceasefire. We have to ensure humanitarians get to reach people, and we have to protect humanitarians. The situation is beyond dire, and I would say all this is avoidable. It is a political choice. What is happening in Gaza is a political choice.
And let's talk about this.
Being Netanyahu needs to be stopped. It's pure overkill, greed, power hunger, and madness.
Ceasefire here. Talks have started once again for a ceasefire, but even if it's agreed upon, I mean, that could still be weeks away. So, give us an idea of what happens in those weeks, and do you think that a ceasefire at this point is the only way to get aid to the people who need it?
Ceasefire is the first prerequisite because how can we save lives when there are bombs falling from the sky all the time? Can anyone mop the floor while the tap is continuously on? So, yes, a ceasefire and a sustained one, an immediate one. To your question, what happens till the ceasefire happens? The world is watching and people are dying every single day, every single hour. No humanitarian crisis has seen this level of death and fatality in one day. And also, I would say people are starving to death. We hear it all the time. People are starving to death. People are being starved to death. There is food available, ready on the doors. And also, because people have not had clean water and people have not had health services, so what is happening is disease outbreak, poor immune systems, infectious disease, and as bad as it sounds, between starvation and death, there is usually disease. And because the health system is pretty much collapsed, people who are in dire need, along with the malnutrition they are facing, they are one step closer to dying. So, humanitarian crisis, I thought it cannot get worse. It cannot get worse. Last 5 months, I have been thinking it cannot get.
Being Netanyahu needs to be arrested. Thank you. Thanks to all my watchers. OTVAC Nation. I'm going to say Reminder Old Channel and OTVAC Nation. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'm out.
Worse. And I'm wrong every single day because it keeps getting worse. 1.1 billion people in Gaza are facing catastrophic levels of hunger. I mean, this is beyond imagination. However, this is reality in front of us every single day. So, if a ceasefire happens, I hope it does. Can we save all these lives? No, because the situation has deteriorated to that level. The essential services have been destroyed to that level. So even if we act now, we will still be playing catch up. There is no time left, and I would again say every starving child dying in Gaza right now is a policy failure.